In the city of Onitsha, there was a large market. Traders from far and wide came to this market to make their living, selling everything from provisions to fabrics. It was a place of both dreams and nightmares, where the harsh reality of competition drove some to success while others struggled. Among the many traders, there were three men who owned large provision stores: Uche, Ekene, and Nnamdi. Uche and Ekene were best of friends, always seen together outside their shop, with their loud voice, often calling customers, especially young women, pulling them with phrases like, "Come and see what I have for you. My color, my color." Their voice echoed through the market street as they walked tirelessly to attract buyers. Nnamdi, on the other hand, was a different kind of man. He never raised his voice or dragged customers. He always had a rosary around his neck as a symbol of his deep faith in God. He spent his day quietly attending to his customers who flocked to his shop in large numbers without much effort on his own part. His provision store was the busiest on the street, and there was never a moment when it was empty. Uche and Ekene watched Nnamdi's success. A seed of envy grew in their hearts. No matter how hard they tried, their shop was never as busy as that of Nnamdi. At first, they smiled and greeted Nnamdi warmly every morning, pretending to be happy for him, but behind those smiles was a lot of hatred. Uche and Ekene's jealousy began to consume them. They would stand outside their shop, watching as people flocked to Nnamdi's store. "Does he use some kind of magic?" Uche muttered one day. "How can one man's shop be so blessed while we struggle?" Ekene, feeling the same bitterness, added, "Maybe he is hiding something, but whatever it is, it needs to stop. We need to bring him down before we lose all our customers to him." At first, they tried to undermine Nnamdi with small schemes. They spread rumors in the market that his goods were inferior, hoping to drive customers away. But the opposite happened. Nnamdi's shop only grew more popular. Even when they tried undercutting his prices, customers remained loyal to Nnamdi. It seemed nothing could stop his success. When all else failed, Uche and Ekene decided to take a very dark path. They traveled far off to a village one night to meet a powerful dibia, a traditional healer and a spiritual leader. The journey was so long and scary. As they made their way through the forest, the sound of owls echoed around them and the path seemed endless, but their envy fueled their steps. When they arrived finally at the dibia welcomed them into his dimly light hut. The air was thick with the scent of burning herbs. "What brings you to me?" he asked. His voice was low and knowing. "We want to bring down a man in our market," Uche replied. "He's too successful and we can't compete with him." The dibia looked at them carefully, then threw bones on the ground in front of him. After a moment of silence, he said, "This man you want to destroy is a good Christian. He knows his God well. It will not be easy to destroy him." Uche and Ekene exchanging nervous glance. "But is it possible?" Ekene asked, desperation creeping into his voice. The dibia smiled a slow smile. "Anything is possible, but it will require a great sacrifice. I will need 6 virgins and you must bring them to me in 5 days." Without hesitation, Uche and Ekene agreed. Their hatred from Nnamdi had grown so deep that they were willing to do anything. In just 3 days, Uche and Ekene managed to gather 6 virgins to the dibia. They felt no remorse, only a burning desire to see Nnamdi fall. The dibia performed the dark rituals, promising Nnamdi's downfall. He gave them instructions to place the charm near Nnamdi's house. That night, after they returned from the dibia, they went to his home under the cover of darkness, laying the final trap that would bring an end to their rival. That evening, Nnamdi returned from church. His house was dark because there was no electricity. He didn't mind. He always prayed before bed, whether there was light or no light. As soon as he finished his prayers, the lights came on, illuminating the entire room. And there was on his bed a large cobra, coiled and waiting to strike. For a moment, Nnamdi stood frozen in terror. The snake's eye glowed as if it were not of this world. He rushed out to the room, calling for help from his neighbors, but when they came, the snake had disappeared. The others laughed at it, thinking Nnamdi was mad. No, he insisted. I saw a large snake. After the others left, Nnamdi remembered the holy water he had received from church. He quickly reached out to it and began to spray it around the room. Suddenly, there was a violent shaking from a corner of the room. Nnamdi approached cautiously and found the snake hiding in his bag. It hissed and in pains from the holy water. With the help of the neighbors, he killed the snake. The next morning, Nnamdi arrived at the market. He was met with the sight of people crying and wailing. What happened? He asked of the traders. Your neighbor Uche is dead, they replied. Nnamdi had sank, but he said nothing. Shortly after, Ekene came running towards him. His face was pale and his body trembling. He fell on his knees in front of Nnamdi, rolling on the ground and begging for forgiveness. Please, Nnamdi, forgive me. I have sinned against you. A crowd gathered around them, and Ekene, overcame with guilt and fear, began to confess everything. He revealed how he and Uche had gone to the dibia to destroy Nnamdi, how they had performed the dark rituals, and how Uche had died as a result of their evil deeds. Pray for me, Ekene begged. Pray that your God does not kill me too. Nnamdi looked down at Ekene. His heart was filled with heavy sorrow. Despite the evil they had done, he could see the fear and remorse in Ekene's eyes. Nnamdi knelt down beside him and placed his hands on Ekene's shoulder. I forgive you, he said softly. May God show you mercy, just as he has shown me. Nnamdi prayed with Ekene in front of the whole market, and after that day, things began to change. The market was inspired by Nnamdi's acts of forgiveness. No longer driven by envy and competition, they began to support one another, building a stronger and more united community. As for Nnamdi, his business continued to thrive and his faith in God grew even more stronger. He had learned that no amount of darkness could overcome the light of his faith. In the end, it was that faith that has saved him.